We find ourselves on the plain of Kaladesh. Towering buildings built of orange metals and colorful glass dominate the sprawling skyline of the city of Girapur. But the whole city isn't what we're here for. We zoom in on one building, the home of one of the most notorious aristocrats of the Kaladeshian nobles, the home of the leader of the Luminary League, the home of Kurna Mahan. The skyscraper is modeled after the Guild's iconic chromatic lantern and is connected by a glass sky bridge to the League's guild hall. But we aren't here to see what's happening to Kurna. We're here to see what's going to happen to the three figures pushing their way towards the tower through the crowd of Kaladesh's annual Inventors Fair. These three figures are here to steal something, and these three figures are the players in my most recent Planeshift campaign. Planeshift is a series of supplements written by the amazing and talented James Wyatt to allow fans of the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons to play on planes other than the vanilla fantasy of Faerun or Greyhawk, most notably the planes from some of the most iconic sets of everyone's favorite card game. There are 6 Planeshift supplements for Zendikar, Innistrad, Kaladesh, Amonkhet, Ixalan, and Dominaria, all planes from Magic the Gathering. And these planes are all also rich with lore. The diverse settings offered up are perfect for a D&D campaign that only needs a bit of tweaking to the races and flavor of a given character. Innistrad or Amonkhet are good alternatives to a vanilla monster hunting campaign. Zendikar a perfect option for a way to spice up an exploration plotline, whereas planes like Kaladesh or Ixalan offer up unique adventures of their very own for players to experience. Planeshift is an amazing idea, and it's executed geniusly on just about every level. It's truly perfect because it slots easily into the ideal mold for a D&D setting. The first reason this is true is that Planeshift is interesting, and that's important. If a setting isn't interesting, then players don't engage with it, and the plot has to carry a lot more weight than it would in an interesting setting. For new and experienced DMs alike, that's more pressure on writing engaging plotlines, but with a setting that is uniquely interesting and engaging in and of itself, it's not only easier to write a compelling story and side quests, but it's easier to DM it. Not only is it great for your game master, but it's also great for your players. A cool setting gives players cool character ideas, and a player who's dead set on playing human rogues, you've all met that player before, is given the opportunity to play the Vidalcan mind mage that was inside them all along. Interesting characters come easier with an interesting setting, and it as a whole is more fun to play with interesting characters in an interesting setting than it is to play with a noble human fighter in Faerun. And that doesn't mean classic fantasy is off the table. The rich classic fantasy setting of Dominaria is chock full of your basic swords and sorcery, but it's still as interesting as planes as exotic as Kaladesh because of its rich intrigue and diverse lore as a setting. Second reason this is true is that Planeshift is tangible. Not in the way that you can actually touch it, but in the way that it's right in front of you, as real as the nose on your face. Regardless of how Wizards of the Coast and the Magic community as a whole treats its artists, the art is one of the most important things about Magic the Gathering, and that is what makes the Planeshift setting so tangible. Planeshift is based off of settings from a game renowned for its art, and that renown is for good reason. It has some of the most coherent and well-executed art of any game, and the settings selected in Wyatt's Planeshift supplements have some amazing art themselves. Kaladesh has an aesthetic mold. The Aether present in the plane molds everything along its invisible path, twisting rivers, trees, and the metal of inventions into beautiful spirals. It's united in design and in theme by its stunning art. The same is true for Innistrad, using classic Gothic tropes and a dark tone to set a beautiful scene that you always find yourself smack dab in the middle of, then subverting those tropes with the twisted growths of Emrakul's corruption and blending together Gothic and Eldritch horror like the most talented person ever to grace the pages of the Jamba Juice employer record. James Wyatt, author of the Planeshift supplements, has been working at Wizards since 2000, and he also authored the Art of the Magic the Gathering series. I don't think that's a coincidence. The Planeshift supplements are deeply rooted in the art of the game, and to take that root metaphor a small amount further, the campaigns built by Planeshift grow larger and stronger because of it. The art of the game of Magic fully realizes the worlds you experience in the Planeshift supplements, and that's a large part of what makes the supplements on Planeshift so well made and amazing. The art of Magic makes the setting a tangible place that is a carefully crafted aesthetic and thematic unity, and that art means the setting is easier to picture and place yourself in than Lamehawk or Borun. The third reason this is true is that Planeshift is new. Not in release or on premise, but in its variety of settings. Most classic D&D settings have existed since Gygax, and while he was an absolute treasure, that means most classic D&D settings are way oversaturated. This is true for a lot of D&D settings. Many planes are vastly overused or have an over-reliance on D&D premises that themselves are vastly overused. Planeshift doesn't, and while it could eventually lose its status as new, it has 6 full settings that are almost entirely original and new as a place to set your story. That's a huge plus, and not just because hipster GMs can jump on it and say they liked it before it was cool, but also because it lends a huge amount to the game. On top of that, these settings being new doesn't mean they aren't fleshed out. Dominaria is a rich and detailed setting that's just about as stuffed as a turducken with its vast recesses of lore. So playing on the planes of Magic the Gathering is new, it's tangible, and it's interesting. It has stunning art and rich flavor, it's perfect. But what does it actually look like being played? A human artificer throws a large vial of fairy fire at a consulate enforcer, and the piston of its leg lets loose a ka-chunk that fills the room our 3 heroes are trapped in as it drops to the ground, dodging the contraption. Another ka-chunk rings out, and the piston leg pushes it forward, leaving a dent in the ground beneath the space an Aetherborn rogue occupied just moments ago with its enormous fist. The heist has gone south, security systems activating after the party reached the bottom level of Kurna Mahan's mansion to access the vault they're here to crack, and they now are trapped in combat with automatons they aren't equipped to handle. A crackling blast of demonic energy is let loose from the finger of a somber-looking dwarf and bounces up the tubes of the Enforcer's arm cannon, shattering its Aether battery with force and removing one combatant from a brawl that includes many as the bulky body of an automaton hits the metal floor with a clang. How does it look being played? Awesome. These supplements make for a compelling story, a suspenseful combat, a campaign that can still use tropes we see in any given genre. Kaladesh can be a replacement for a noir campaign without losing the beautiful flavor a D&D campaign is so thirsty for. Ixalan can be a perfect seafaring setting without sacrificing the tangibility of the art within the pages of the monster manual. Planeshift is beautiful and Planeshift is fun, but it's not the only way to play on different planes in Magic the Gathering universe, and that brings me to these 2 source books. And while they're noticeably different from the Planeshift supplements, they're also noticeably different from each other. And, this one's better. Don't worry, I'm going to back that up. Now, James Wyatt worked on designing both of these books, and while I respect his work a huge amount, Guildmaster's Guide falls flat when compared to the overview of the Theros Guide. Not that it isn't one of the best source books in 5e, it is. Not that it isn't the most logical way to expand Planeshift to a larger product, it also is, and it's executed really well. It's that it didn't offer anything better. Just more of the same. Don't get me wrong, more Planeshift is great because Planeshift itself is great, but it doesn't offer a new take on what Planeshift made, whereas Theros Guide does. Theros' guide offers god boons, god weapons, and a new take on how the game itself should be played. It's a unique and interesting way of playing the game, not more on how to play the same game. Guildmaster's Guide is a Planeshift but bigger, but Mythic Odysseys isn't a Planeshift. It has ascended like the heroes of its plane to become legend itself. So to go back over all of this, there's a couple things you should take away from watching this. Planeshift supplements are amazing, Mythic Odysseys of Theros is amazing, these games are enriching, they are fun, they're the best candidate for a setting of a Dungeons & Dragons game, and they're uniquely playable. So hop on Zoom or Discord, pull up a PDF of your favorite Planes lore, and gather some friends to play. It'll be fun. Trust me. Okay, thanks for watching all the way through. I really didn't expect anyone to do that, so that's cool. I wasn't sponsored by Mythic Odysseys of Theros to make this video praising it. If I was, that would be a really bad plan for Wizards, though, considering my 0 subscribers and less than an hour of watch time. But I really enjoy Planeshift, and I think if you made it this far, you probably will too. If you don't have a reliable play group for Dungeons & Dragons but still want to try Planeshift, check out the description below where I put links to the Planeshift subreddit and Discord server. Thanks, and I'll see you next time I post another thing like this.